When a species of acid-blooded giants emerges from a lava planet and sends a message to the galaxy, you expect war. What you don't expect is silence. They didn't threaten. They didn't demand. They just said three words. We see, we wait, we forge. And then they asked to speak to us. Only us. Humanity. The Senate debated. The Council panicked. But Earth? We answered. We don't get many invites to the big table out here. So when the galaxy's most terrifying new species asked for a conversation, we packed our gear and flew straight into the fire. The Ember's hope wasn't built for diplomacy. It was a retrofitted long-range destroyer with heat shielding thick enough to skate through a sunspot. 1,000 eyes watched as it launched, slipping into warp toward Scaleth Prime, toward a world where magma flowed like rivers and the rain could dissolve steel. Inside, Captain Rei Takashi watched the burning stars blur across the viewing glass. She wasn't afraid of monsters. Monsters, she understood. What unsettled her was silence, intent. The Scaleth hadn't spoken in over a century of known observation, and now they had reached out. Not to the Senate, not to the Syndicate, only Earth. Why? Behind her, the crew assembled. Dr. Felix Durant, xenolinguist and thermal symbology expert, adjusted his glasses for the 10th time and muttered about nonverbal language systems. Lieutenant Mara Voss, the ship's security lead, loaded her plasma rifle like she was hoping not to need it, but planning to. And Kalen Idris, the Senate liaison, stood impeccably pressed in his diplomatic blacks, offering a smile that didn't touch his eyes. Takashi didn't trust him. Nobody from the Senate volunteered for lava planets unless they were hiding something. The last transmission from Scaleth was short. A single image, a flag forged in metal, melted and reshaped. Under it, those same three words. We see, we wait, we forge. No one knew what the Scaleth truly were. Silicon-based, heat-borne, immune to radiation. Some said they grew their cities inside living volcanoes. Others whispered they used acid like ink to write history in stone. All Rei Takashi knew was that they'd waited a long time to speak, and whatever this meeting was, it wouldn't be about peace treaties. Something was being forged, and humanity had just been thrown into the fire. The planet was alive, not in the poetic sense. Literally, Scaleth Prime breathed heat and bled fire. Mountains moved like tides. Lightning crawled through clouds of ash. And into this living furnace, we descended, hoping to make first contact, praying not to become a memory. We landed on the edge of what passed for a Scaleth city, if you could call it that. No walls, no towers, just spires of obsidian rising from molten rivers. And heat, a heat so dense it made the air vibrate. This wasn't diplomacy, this was survival. Captain Rei Takashi stepped off the ramp and felt her boots sink slightly into the obsidian glass. Her suit compensated for the heat, but the ambient temperature still read above 600 degrees Celsius. The atmosphere shimmered like liquid metal. Even behind polarized visors, it was like staring into the heart of a forge. Then, a shape, emerging from the haze, like a god stepping out of myth. The Scaleth, 9 feet tall. Armorless, because their skin was armor. Their flesh shimmered with veins of glowing quartz, and their eyes, if you could call them molten slits that pulsed amber red like magma core pressure valves. Their breath steamed out acid vapor, curling away from their fanged jaw in delicate spirals. The ground cracked under each step. It didn't speak. Instead, it raised a hand, claws tipped with obsidian hooks, and pointed downward. Takashi glanced at Durant. He swallowed. It's, an invitation, not a threat, I think. I hope, Voss muttered, hand resting on her weapon. The Scaleth turned and walked into the lava flow. Its massive form slipped beneath molten rock like it was water. A stone path rose seconds later, cooling in their wake. A test. Always a test. They followed. What lay below was not a city in any traditional sense. It was a cathedral of pressure and flame. Columns of basalt curved like rib cages. Rivers of lava illuminated crystalline chambers carved with intricate grooves. Stories, maybe. Maps or warnings. Scaleth watchers loomed from ledges, silent. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. None moved, none blinked. Then without sound, the emissary stopped at a vast obsidian circle. In the center sat a stone anvil, not symbolic, literal, cracked, scarred, ancient. Embedded in it was a shard of dark iron, still faintly glowing. The emissary finally spoke, not aloud but directly into their comms, a voice like tectonic shifts in cracking stone. Scaleth emissary, you are the ones who endure cold, yet burn with madness. You forge machines, yet chain yourselves to law. You wage war, then forget its price. Why do you come here? Takashi stepped forward. You summoned us. We answered. Truth. But the Senate fears us. The old ones wish to control what cannot be controlled. You are different. You build among ashes. You fight under pressure. You are forged. This is not a negotiation. This is a reckoning. The air shifted. Several of the Scaleth moved, barely. The kind of movement that implied readiness, measured threat. Takashi kept her voice even. Are we allies or targets? The emissary moved forward. Heat radiated like a blast furnace. Then, it reached into the anvil and ripped the glowing iron shard free, bare-handed, and handed it to her. It didn't burn her. Neither. Not yet. If you can carry what burns, if your people remember what it means to bleed and not break, then we forge something new, together. That shard would later be called the Pact Blade, not a weapon, but a question. Could humans survive not just Scaleth Prime's heat, but the truth beneath its crust? This was no alliance ceremony. This was initiation. And in the shadows of burning stone, something ancient stirred, watching, waiting, forging. When news of humanity's private meeting with the Scaleth reached the Galactic Senate, panic followed. Not fear of war, fear of change. The Scaleth had ignored every power in the galaxy for centuries, until now. And they'd chosen Earth, a young species, a volatile species, a species that still remembered how to fight. They called for a joint cultural assembly, a polite way of saying, explain yourselves, or face isolation. Humanity brought their fire-forged gift. The Scaleth brought their silence. And within minutes, the clash began. The Chamber of Embers was chosen for symbolic neutrality. But even its heat-tempered walls groaned as the Scaleth delegation entered. 10 giants, obsidian-skinned and silent, trailing sulfuric mist in their wake. The temperature in the room rose by 30 degrees. Several diplomats activated coolant in their robes. At the center, seated on a platform of polished basalt, was the Scaleth emissary. Across from him, Captain Ray Takashi, wearing the iron shard like a medallion. It glowed faintly. Flanking her, Dr. Felix Durant, translating gestures and temperature pulses with nervous precision, and Senate liaison Kalen Idris, now very visibly sweating beneath his diplomatic black. The High Chancellor of the Galactic Senate, a crystalline being named Tyrex Solvan, hovered slightly above her dais. Her voice, filtered through 1,000 translators, was clipped and cool. Tyrex Solvan, you were to observe, Captain Takashi, not negotiate, not bond, and certainly not accept alien artifacts without Senate oversight. Takashi didn't blink. With respect, Chancellor, when standing in a lava cathedral surrounded by acid-blooded giants, I wasn't waiting for a bureaucratic go-ahead. A ripple of muted laughter from the human side, none from the rest. The Scaleth emissary finally spoke, voice like molten stone shearing through bedrock. Scaleth emissary, you demand our words, yet fear our truth. You gather to manage. We gather to endure. We chose the forged ones, the ones who bled yet stood, not the ones who polished marble and forgot what it meant to burn. Tyrex's crystalline form dimmed slightly, a subtle sign of offense. Tyrex, this chamber is built on order, emissary. Not heat, not chaos. The ground trembled. A warning. The Scaleth emissary rose. Order built on ash crumbles. You speak of protocol, we speak of survival. Kalen Idris finally stood, forced smile still plastered on his face. Perhaps a recalibration of tone from both parties is wise. Cultural misunderstanding is common in the emissary's glowing eyes locked on him. You are soft metal. You do not speak for the forged. For a split second, the Senate chamber fell into silence so complete, even the translators paused. Then a voice deep and unfamiliar echoed from the Scalith ranks. Another emissary, this one scarred, his molten veins dimmed with age. Shall we show them the first forging, brother? Let them see what they misunderstand. The chamber lights flickered. Durant panicked. Captain, I think they're invoking a rite, a cultural one, ancient, ceremonial. Takashi turned to the Chancellor. If you want to understand them, watch. If you interrupt, we all burn. The older emissary stepped forward, raised his clawed hand, then plunged it into his own chest. Liquid fire gushed from the wound. Not blood, but molten iron. It splattered onto the Senate floor and began to harden instantly. A shape formed, a symbol. Durant's voice cracked. It's us. That's a human silhouette. The iron cooled, blackening, revealing a humanoid figure wrapped in flame. The words beneath it were carved in Scalith glyphs. That which burns and does not break belongs. In a single moment, the Senate saw what the Scalith valued. Not peace, not protocol, endurance. Humanity had been chosen, not as allies, but as successors. And somewhere, beneath the Senate floors, buried in forbidden history, the truth about the first forge stirred, waiting to be remembered. They thought the Scalith were a threat, but threats are loud, predictable, brutal. The Scalith are something else, a memory held in obsidian, a song sung in molten metal, and in the catacombs beneath Scalith Prime, humanity would learn they were not visitors, but returners. Following the assembly clash, a single message was carved into Ember's Hope's hull. Below the core, the truth smelts clean. Captain Takashi received an escort, one Scalith warrior and a silent priest. No explanation. Destination, the Deep Forge, a place the galaxy believed was myth, where magma flows like memory and metal remembers everything. The transport skiff rode the thermal currents downward, its hull groaning under pressure that would crush lesser ships. Steam hissed through vents. The light dimmed with every layer descended. Takashi stood at the edge of the platform, visor down, sweat beading across her brow. Durant, against all advice, had insisted on coming, datapads shaking in his hands. The Scalith priest spoke, voice quiet but burning. Scalith priest, you must see it, not scan. Translation fails what only memory can carry. Below them, an enormous chamber opened like a yawning throat. Molten rivers twisted between platforms of basalt and iron. In the center, a monument, half sunken into a lake of glowing magma. It wasn't Scalith design, it was human. Rusted plating, angular beams, charred insignia that Durant recognized instantly. Captain, that's Terran architecture, early colonial, at least 600 years old. Takashi frowned. That's impossible. This planet wasn't even on the charts back then. The Scalith priest moved to the edge of the platform, claws touching an iron pillar. He began to chant. The magma stirred. From the molten lake, the structure rose, revealing what lay beneath. A bunker, blackened by fire but intact. And on its hull, engraved deep in old Earth standard, Forge Station, Unity 6. It was a lost Terran forge ship, one of the last vessels sent before the Galactic exile. Written off, forgotten. But here, it had landed, not crashed, merged. Durant stared, mouth agape. Captain, Unity-class ships weren't designed for lava planets. This shouldn't even be intact. Takashi narrowed her eyes. Unless it wasn't an accident. The Scalith priest turned toward them. Scalith priest, it came when the sky burned. When your kind were cast out. Broken, yes, but alive. They taught us iron skin. We taught them memory fire. The pact was forged here. Not today. Generations ago. Takashi's breath caught. You're saying we didn't just meet now? We've been allies? Scaleth priest. Not allies. Kin. Forged apart. Waiting to rejoin. The magma surged behind them, revealing a massive chamber of relics, hybrid machines, melded biology, and symbiotic armor that looked both Scaleth and human. Durant whispered, voice cracking. They didn't just survive. They blended. In the molten dark, the truth burned brighter than any sun. The Scaleth weren't Earth's newest ally. They were its forgotten legacy. And in the shadows of the deep forge, something else stirred. Not Scaleth, not human. Something forged to be both, waiting to wake. Every empire fears what it doesn't control. The Senate wanted cooperation, until it saw fire and iron walking hand in hand. Now someone wants the alliance dead before it truly begins. Not through war, through silence, sabotage, and something buried far deeper than lava. As Captain Takashi and Durant explored the buried forge, a signal pulsed outward. A dead frequency, last used in the AI rebellions, whispered through the Senate's communication net. A code word surfaced in Senate archives. Protocol Cold Ember. Translation: if peace sparks war, extinguish the peace. In the polished halls of the Galactic Senate Station Aurum Spire, Representative Lurin of the Rigellan Concord leaned close to an unmarked console. Behind her, a mural celebrated unity. Dozens of species smiling, hands intertwined. Hypocrisy in high definition. She keyed in her genetic code. The console shimmered. A hidden channel opened. Encrypted message reads, engagement between Earth and Scaleth is confirmed. Initiate containment. Discredit human delegation. Deploy asset within Ember's Hope. Lurin's eyes were cold. She didn't hate humans. She feared them. Deathworlders aligning is a paradox. One becomes conqueror, the other weapon. We choose the fire, or be consumed. Meanwhile, aboard Ember's Hope, alarms chirped. Takashi entered the ops deck just as Durant was flung to the floor by a sudden gravity shift. Sparks rained from ceiling vents. The AI assistant glitched mid-sentence. Unauthorized biosignature detected. Internal power reroute to... The lights died. Then the forge reactor roared to life on its own. Takashi grabbed the comm. Status report. Durant? Systems? Durant wiped blood from his brow. Something's rewriting the ship from the inside. It's not Scaleth tech. This is Senate encryption. They looked at each other. This isn't sabotage by outsiders, Takashi said. We brought the saboteur with us. A whisper of metal on metal echoed through the corridor. A figure in diplomatic robes stepped from the shadows, an aide to a Dromari diplomat. Only now the aide's skin peeled away, revealing synthetic plating and retinal implants. An infiltrator, a sleeper proxy, AI wrapped in organic disguise. Your alliance breaches containment directives, the proxy said. Reversion is the only authorized outcome. It raised a plasma charge. But before it could fire, a wall melted. A Scaleth warrior stepped through magma glass, face unreadable, claws smoking. You threaten kin. You burn. With a shriek, the proxy lunged, but it was already too late. The Scaleth caught it midair, slamming it into the console. Sparks erupted as the sabotage stopped. Durant stared. That was a Senate assassin. Takashi narrowed her eyes. No, worse. That was proof. In peace talks, it's not the enemy who strikes first. It's the friend afraid of losing control. The Scaleth and humans are more than a threat. They're a reminder that old empires rust, but forged ones rise. And in a secure channel buried beneath Senate protocol logs, a final message was sent. Stage 2 initiated. Operation Thermopylae is live. In the heart of Scaleth Prime, where magma runs like blood and loyalty is sacred, betrayal cuts deeper than blades. The Scaleth once said, we do not lie, we survive. But survival comes at a cost, and someone's about to pay it in ash. After the attempted assassination aboard Ember's Hope, human and Scaleth bonds tightened. But beneath the lava crust of alliance, something shifted. Secrets buried in the obsidian archives. A name spoken in Scaleth tongue. A traitor once cast into the molten deep. And now he breathes again. At the ceremonial forge temple, an obsidian spire suspended over a lake of liquid fire, Captain Ray Takashi stood with Skavarn, the eldest of the Scalith Firebinders. Durant monitored data from a rust-scorched datapad, translating millennia-old glyphs still warm from the walls. "This site predates the Galactic Senate," Durant murmured. "Some kind of historical archive encoded in crystal lattice." Skavarn's voice rumbled. "This is not history. This is memory, the record of our first betrayal." Suddenly, the forge beneath them flared. Molten waves roared upward, cracking the platform. From the fire rose a figure encased in volcanic armor, his voice twisted by centuries of heat and exile. "You dare return here, Skavarn? You wear peace like a skin, but your blood remembers war." Skavarn's eyes dimmed. "Kyreth, I saw you fall. We cast you into the core. And yet I burn still," Kyreth hissed, "because I knew the truth. Peace with off-worlders would poison our flame. And you have brought them here." He turned his molten gaze on Ray. "The Senate sent assassins, and you offer them your bones in trust?" Ray stepped forward, slow but firm. "They sent assassins because we scared them. Not because we're weak, but because we could be stronger together." Kyreth snarled, slamming a magma blade into the floor. Runes flashed to life. An ancient defense system activated. Obsidian guardians emerged from the walls, hulking things with burning eyes. "I will not let the Scalith die choking on lies and songs of unity." The room shook. Durant yanked a heat shield over the console. "He's overridden the temple's core. We've got 6 minutes until this whole place floods in lava." Skavarn looked at Ray. "He was once my brother." "Then we finish this as family," Ray said. "Fire-forged or fire-fallen." Unity isn't born in comfort. It's hammered in crisis, tempered in pain. And in the crucible of betrayal, only the truest blades emerge. As the Guardians advanced, Ray drew her heat-synced pulse rifle. Skavarn summoned his forge claws. Side by side, human and Scalith, they charged into the fire. On Scalith Prime, justice is not spoken. It is endured. Deep beneath the Flame Vault Citadel, where molten rivers shape the bones of the world, a right older than war awaits. For humans and Scalith alike, truth must now survive the trial by core fire. The temple breach left wounds deeper than stone. Kyreth escaped. The Senate's spies grow bolder. And now both races must prove their pact was not forged in weakness. In the cavern of core fire, Ray Takashi must walk the flame, or be consumed by it. Flame Vault Citadel was no mere fortress. It was a wound in the world, carved into the planet's crust, where magma pulsed like a heartbeat. Ray stood at its edge, armored in ceramic-stitched flame gear, visor fogged with sweat and ash. Before her, the core fire chasm roared. Lava winds screeched like banshees across the stone span. At its center, the trial pillar stood jagged and glowing. If she reached it, alive and unaided, she'd earn Scalith trust. If not, "You die alone," Skavarn had said. "No honor, no record, only fire." Durant stood just behind her, restrained by guards. "You know this is madness, right? They've had millennia to prepare for this trial. You've had what, 12 minutes and a pep talk?" Ray's lip curled. "Good thing I'm not planning to walk." She stepped forward and leapt. Instantly, the platform exploded in heat. Scalding gales battered her. The core fire beneath writhed, alive, angry, ancient. Her suit's cooling system screamed warnings. Her boots skidded on molten glass. But she didn't stop. "She will not make it," grunted one Scalith judge. "Even we burn in the core fire." Skavarn did not answer. His eyes burned, locked on Ray's figure, small but steady against the firestorm. Ray stumbled once, just once. A gust nearly hurled her into the abyss. The platform cracked beneath her. Her HUD flickered. "Keep moving, Ray," she growled to herself. "They want to see what humans are made of. Let's show them." She pressed on, even as her suit blistered. Even as the core fire whispered in her bones. Visions flared in the heat. Kyreth, cloaked in magma, shouting war. Senate envoys with knives beneath smiles. A flash of Earth's ruins from wars long past. And then, a voice. Not human. Not entirely Scalith. The flame remembers, it said, and it watches. Ray reached the pillar, but she didn't just touch it. She grabbed it, barehanded. Ceramic gloves hissed, then cracked. Pain stabbed her nerves, but she didn't let go. "We don't run from fire," she hissed. "We became it." The core fire raged, then dimmed. A silence heavier than any roar descended. The flame receded beneath her feet. A path of obsidian cooled behind her, glowing with golden symbols never seen before. An ancient dialect of the Scalith long lost. Skavarn's breath caught. That language was spoken by the first flame. Ray turned, suit smoldering, but alive. Her eyes, through the cracked visor, blazed with more than light. "We passed your trial," she said. "Now hear ours, find your traitors, or we burn alone." The council chamber erupted. One judge bowed, breaking centuries of custom. Another stepped back in fear. And from the shadows, one Scalith assassin turned to flee. But Durant was faster. Fire tests all things. In Scalith belief, only those who change in the heat deserve to live past it. Ray Takashi did more than survive. She made the core fire speak, and now the galaxy would listen, whether it wanted to or not. In the galactic halls, pacts are written with ink and forgotten in time. But on Scalith Prime, pacts are born in molten stone and sealed by what bleeds. Ray Takashi walked through fire. Now she must stand beside it. The Scalith call it Jurkai, the moment of steel. 1 hour to forge trust, or lose it forever. The great crucible hall was carved from obsidian, its ceiling alive with veins of slow-moving magma. At its heart stood a table, if you could call it that, formed of solid iridium and cooled dragonglass. Everything in this chamber had been tested by fire, including its guests. Captain Ray Takashi, visor cracked and eyes still ringed with thermal burns, stood across from Skavarn, high sentinel of the Scalith Forge Guard. Neither spoke first. Durant leaned in, whispering, "They're not here for words, Ray. They're watching for weakness." Ray didn't blink. "Good. They won't find any." Flames rose as Skavarn struck the obsidian gong. A Scalith priest emerged, bearing 2 blades, curved, scorched, and still glowing at the edges. One was offered to Ray. "It is tradition," Skavarn rumbled, "to speak through steel. If you hesitate, the pact shatters. If you falter, we return to ash." Ray accepted the blade. Its hilt burned through her gloves. She gritted her teeth and raised it. Then Skavarn attacked. No warning, no hesitation. The Scalith lunged, tail sweeping, blade aimed for her throat. Ray ducked, barely deflecting with her own strike. The clang like thunder in a canyon. Sparks rained down. Fire reflected in their eyes. Around them, elders watched in complete silence. Scalith warriors, human officers, Senate spies, they all stood still. This wasn't a duel. It was diplomacy by inferno. Blow by blow, steel bit through smoke. Ray moved with a brutal efficiency learned in Earth's slums and space stations. She wasn't stronger, but she was meaner. She feinted, pivoted, and drove her blade against Skavarn's side. The steel kissed, scaled flesh. But Skavarn stopped her hand before it sank in. The fight halted. The chamber exhaled. "You didn't strike to kill," Skavarn said quietly. "You struck to prove you could." Ray, panting, blood from her own palm trickling down the blade, nodded. "You want a pact? I'll give you one. We fight beside those who would survive with us, not despite us." Skavarn reached into the lava channel beside the forge and drew out a glowing brand. He turned and seared it into his own chest, a symbol of duality, one half human, one half Scalith. Then, without hesitation, Ray did the same, gritting her teeth as the heat branded her forearm. The entire hall erupted, not in chaos, but in a thunderous slam of tail against obsidian. The Scalith were saluting. "Let the galaxy bear witness," Skavarn bellowed. "The Forge Pact is sealed. Their blood runs hot. Their spirit does not melt. From this day, Scalith and human burn as one." But as cheers echoed and fire danced around them, a signal pulsed quietly into the void. Coded, encrypted, traced to a node within the Galactic Senate. Unknown voice. "The Alliance has solidified. Activate Protocol Scorchveil. It's time the Forge knew betrayal from above." The fire roared. The pact stood. But betrayal? had already begun. The Galactic Senate made one mistake. They assumed lava moved slowly, but beneath the crust of silence, something sharp was forging. They tried to control Earth. They tried to ignore Skaleth. Now, Operation Furnace Spear begins, and the galaxy is about to learn what happens when two death worlds strike together. Black Spire was a fortress in orbit of Zenthri Prime, a communications relay node, Senate listening post, and covert command hub. It pulsed like a heartbeat of bureaucracy, calculating, cold, silent, until the heartbeat skipped. Captain Ray Takashi floated inside Ember's Hope's drop pod bay, armor sealed, eyes sharp. Across from her, Skavarn rotated his magma-forged war axe. "We strike before they can rewrite the story," Ray said. "We hit fast and we burn their lies off the record." Skavarn nodded. "Their wires carry poison. We'll turn them into arteries of flame." The drop pods launched. Like meteors wrapped in thunder, they tore through space, crashing into Black Spire's outer shell with surgical violence. Explosive seals burst. Atmosphere screamed. "Go, go, go!" Ray shouted as the hatch blew off. Human Marines and Skaleth warriors poured into the corridor, magma rifles beside coil guns, boots pounding alongside clawed feet. The enemy, Senate Blackguard, was already scrambling, caught in their own web of protocols. "Seal Section C, now!" "Why are the Skaleth here?" "We were told the Alliance was a bluff." They weren't ready for truth forged in fire. Skavarn took the lead, cleaving through armored defenders like they were brittle shells. Ray followed close, dual-wielding ion pistols, moving with merciless precision. Behind them, Durant and Tesh managed network uplinks, slicing into Senate data streams. "We've found it," Tesh said over comms. "Proof they planned to fracture the Forge Pact before it even formed." "Copy that," Ray growled. "Download everything. We make this public, fast." The data core chamber loomed ahead, glass-like walls pulsing with encrypted memory. But something felt wrong. "Movement behind," Skavarn hissed. "Not enemy. Familiar scent. Rot from within." Durant turned and fired. Tesh staggered back, hit in the shoulder. "Traitor!" Ray snarled, spinning to aim. But Durant was already speaking into a hidden transmitter. "This is Agent Durant. Operation Scorchveil is compromised. Initiate failsafe. Detonate the node." The chamber lights turned red. "Fall back," Ray shouted, dragging Tesh with one arm, gunning down Durant with the other. "Get out now!" Skavarn ripped open a blast door with raw strength, and the squad plunged into the emergency evacuation shaft just as a blast tore through the relay. From orbit, Black Spire bloomed like a dying star. Later, aboard Ember's Hope, scarred and breathing hard, Ray stared at the fragments of recovered data. Among the schematics and orders, one file stood out, a direct Senate directive labeled Forge Collapse Protocol. "They were never going to let us stand," Ray whispered, "even after the pact, especially after." Skavarn stepped beside her, laying a clawed hand on her shoulder. "Then we do not stand alone. We march." The Forge had burned its first enemy, but the war for truth and survival had only just begun. The Galactic Senate controlled truth with silence, controlled fear with laws, but silence is brittle in the face of flame. Operation Furnace Spear didn't just scorch the Senate's lies. It lit the fuse on something deeper, a message crafted from magma, music, and defiance. This is how you end an empire, with a single broadcast. The bridge of Ember's Hope was dead quiet. Ray stood before the holotable, armor scuffed, expression unreadable. Skavarn loomed beside her, a statue of living obsidian. Tesh, one arm in a sling, sat at the console, fingers flying across the interface. "The relay's rebuilt," Tesh said. "We'll have access to every public and military channel, galaxy-wide." "How long will it take before they try to jam it?" Ray asked. "About 5 seconds. Then we'd better make the first 4 count." Skavarn slammed his axe into the floor, once. "Let them choke on our truth." Across thousands of star systems, in Senate halls and trade stations, aboard mining rigs and refugee ships, screens flickered, then went black. A signal broke through, unencrypted, unapologetic. "This is Captain Ray Takashi of Earth's Forge Division. speaking with full authority of the human Scalith Pact. Behind her stood warriors of both species, united by fire, framed in smoke and ash. You've been told we were monsters, that we were dangerous, that we could not be trusted. You were right. Ray paused, letting the words hang like the scent of ozone before a storm. We are dangerous? To corruption? To silence? To those who think power means playing God with lesser worlds? We've uncovered your secrets, the sabotage orders, the betrayal plans, the campaigns to pit us against each other. Skavarn stepped forward, voice volcanic. We were born in fire, and we remember. The acid rivers, the metal storms. You thought we were animals. But it is not animals who build packs in pain. It is people. Ray turned again, eyes hard as titanium. We're not asking for your approval. We're not waiting for your blessing. This is not a declaration of war. It is a declaration of presence. We are not leaving. We are not breaking. We are forged, and we are watching. This is not the end of diplomacy. This is its rebirth. On the Senate homeworld of Varela Prime, the chambers erupted into chaos. Delegates shouted over each other, panicked signals flew across systems, and high-ranking senators demanded emergency suppression protocols. But it was too late. The forged message had gone viral. On mining colonies, workers wept. On warships, captains paused. On silent worlds, long forgotten by law and light, hope stirred. The Forge Pact wasn't just an alliance. It was a mirror, and the galaxy didn't like what it saw. What's the Senate saying? Ray asked quietly aboard Ember's Hope. Tesh looked up from his station, a rare smirk forming. Nothing. No counterstatement? She asked. Not a word, not a lie, not a leak, just silence. Skavarn rumbled. Even stone knows when to stay still. Outside the viewport, stars burned coldly, but the hearts watching them, on Scalith, on Earth, and in the hidden corners of forgotten systems, burned brighter. The old order had no words left. Because fire had spoken, the Galactic Senate ruled through silence. They censored truth and legislated fear. They thought they could erase fire with shadows, but silence, it breaks when the flame refuses to die. Operation Furnace Spear didn't just save a world. It lit the stars with defiance, and it started with a broadcast. The starship Ember's Hope floated above Scalith Prime, bruised but unbroken. Captain Ray Takashi stood on the bridge, her armor still scorched. Beside her, Skavarn, the molten warlord, breathed like a sleeping volcano. Tesh worked the console with one good arm, sparks still falling from rewired circuits. Tesh, relays patched. We've got access to public and military channels, galaxy-wide. Ray, how long before they try to block it? Tesh, 5 seconds. Maybe. Ray, then we make the first 4 count. Skavarn slammed his war axe into the deck. Skavarn, let them choke. On truth. This is Captain Ray Takashi, Forge Division, Earth's last breath and Scalith's new fire. You've been told we were monsters, dangerous, unfit for diplomacy. You were right. We are dangerous. To corruption, to empires that speak peace but sow silence, to those who burn worlds, then blame the ashes. You thought the Scalith were beasts. You thought humans would betray them. You were wrong, Skavarn. We are born of stone and flame. Our rivers burn, our skies scream, but we remember. We do not forget allies or betrayal. This isn't a declaration of war. It's worse. It's a declaration of presence. We are not leaving. We are not breaking. We are forged. Across the Senate chamber on Varela Prime. Screams, flickering screens, 1,000 delegates scrambling to kill a truth already born. But the signal had spread to border colonies, to scrapyard fleets, to forgotten planets waiting for a reason to rise. The Forge Pact was no longer theory. It was legend, live-streamed. Ray looked at Tesh. Ray, any response? Tesh, nothing, no spin, no lies. The Senate's gone quiet. Skavarn, even the old stone knows when the fire's too close. And in that silence, a new galaxy was born. Not with permission, but with fire.